Monday of the 18th week in Ordinary Time.
A reading from the book of Numbers. The children of Israel lamented, "Would that we had meat for food. We remember the fish we used to eat without cost in Egypt, and the cucumbers, the melons, the leeks, the onions, and the garlic. But now we are famished. We see nothing before us but this manna." Manna was like coriander seed and had the color of resin. When they had gone about and gathered it up, the people would grind it between millstones or pound it in a mortar, then cook it in a pot and make it into loaves, which tasted like cakes made with oil. At night, when the dew fell upon the camp, the manna also fell. When Moses heard the people, family after family, crying at the entrance of their tents, so that the Lord became very angry, he was grieved. "Why do you treat your servants so badly?" Moses asked the Lord. "Why are you so displeased with me that you burden me with all this people? Was it I who conceived all this people? Or was it I who gave them birth, that you tell me to carry them at my bosom, like a foster father carrying an infant, to the land you have promised under oath to their fathers? Where can I get meat to give to all this people? For they are crying to me, 'Give us meat for our food.' I cannot carry all this people by myself, for they are too heavy for me. If this is the way you will deal with me, then please do me the favor of killing me at once, so that I need no longer face this distress." The word of the Lord.
The responsorial psalm. The response is, "Sing with joy to God our help." My people heard not my voice, and Israel obeyed me not. So I gave them up to the hardness of their hearts. They walked according to their own counsels. Sing with joy to God our help. If only my people would hear me and Israel walk in my ways. Quickly would I humble their enemies, against their foes I would turn my hand. Sing with joy to God our help. Those who hated the Lord would seek to flatter me, but their fate would endure forever. While Israel I would feed with the best of wheat, and with honey from the rock I would fill them. Sing with joy to God our help.
A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Matthew. When Jesus heard of the death of John the Baptist, he withdrew in a boat to a deserted place by himself. The crowds heard of this and followed him on foot from their towns. When he disembarked and saw the vast crowd, his heart was moved with pity for them, and he cured their sick. When it was evening, the disciples approached him and said, "This is a deserted place, and it is already late. Dismiss the crowds, so that they can go to the villages and buy food for themselves." Jesus said to them, "There is no need for them to go away. Give them some food yourselves." But they said to him, "5 loaves and 2 fish are all we have here." Then he said, "Bring them here to me," and he ordered the crowds to sit down on the grass. Taking the 5 loaves and the 2 fish, and looking up to heaven, he said the blessing, broke the loaves, and gave them to the disciples, who in turn gave them to the crowds. They all ate and were satisfied, and they picked up the fragments left over, 12 wicker baskets full. Those who ate were about 5,000 men, not counting women and children. The Gospel of the Lord.
Monday of the 18th week in Ordinary Time. The first reading comes from Numbers 11, 4b to 15. The people of Israel lament again. They complained to Moses and to God that they don't have enough good food. All that God has given them is manna. Now, this is ironic because manna is already food given from God himself, a special type of food that looks like a seed, which they then ground up to make flour to make their bread. This is bread come from heaven, and yet they're complaining, they're kvetching. That's the Yiddish word that's used when somebody just complains all the time. And what is Moses' response? He complains to God. The people complain to him, he complains to God. That he didn't give birth to his people, why is he saddled with their responsibility? Why has God allowed him to be treated so badly, etc. Instead of showing gratitude to God for all the gifts that they've received, for the ways that God has intervened in their history to free them from slavery in Egypt, for the way that God has given them food from heaven, the way that God has given them water from the rock, rather they complain. And in a sense, this is a warning to us that we should count our blessings. We should recognize the many ways that God has blessed us every day. This is something that Oprah Winfrey once advised, that every day we write a diary of gratitude. Write down 5 things for which we're grateful. Because if we're looking for the things for which we're grateful, then we'll be filled with gratitude. But if we're looking for the things that haven't happened, for the things that we wish would happen, and we start complaining, then we'll miss the blessings that we've already received. The Gospel is from Matthew 14, 13 to 21. After the death of John the Baptist, Jesus disembarks in a boat, and he sees a deserted place, but there's a crowd there. So he asks if there's anything to give them to eat. They come forward with 5 loaves and 2 fish, and he has the people sit down in the green grass. Now this is an allusion to Psalm 23, "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. In verdant pastures he gives me repose." All of the accounts of the multiplication of loaves and fish have some sort of allusion to this idea that God has fed his people. When everybody has finished eating, there's enough left over to fill 12 baskets. 12, symbolic number standing for the 12 tribes of Israel. Remember, this is the gospel where Jesus came for the lost sheep of Israel. This is the Gospel of Matthew, which is a very Jewish gospel. And we hear that there were over 5,000 men, not counting women and children, largely because in those days they really didn't count. This is the multiplication of loaves and fish for the Jewish people. The Gospels of Matthew and Mark also have a multiplication of loaves and fish for over 4,000 people, in which at the end there are 7 baskets left over. And that multiplication is for the Gentiles. 7, the perfect number, enough for all the peoples upon the earth. This is a sign that Jesus is the Good Shepherd, nourishing his people, satisfying the deepest hunger of their hearts. And may God bless us.